So this is the new birdkids VCO and VCA and two of its expanders. We've got a mixer to the right that's got a built-in noise source and an expander that gives us further cutoff control, resonance control, and uses the inbuilt VCA to complete the voice alongside the VCO and VCF. Now this is pronounced the Bateleur VCO. That's the DivKid Yorkshire version of a French word, or at least the word I was told to pronounce with a French accent. So there you go, make of that what you will. But name and being silly aside, this thing sounds stunning. Let's check out the waveforms, check out the filter, and then we'll get into some patches. So running through the waveforms, we've got a sine wave. It's got fine tune, an octave switching. It's got a little bit of buzz and a little bit of meat to it. And the design for this was actually a case of building something that's musically useful and rich, and that little bit of meat and sort of hair on the sine wave isn't perfect, but it's really musical and works great as a sub bass that you can mix underneath other waveforms or other oscillators. Moving on, we've got a triangle wave, saw wave, square wave, pulse width, and a sub. And that sub's an octave below, and it's a square wave. Using the mixer, we can easily mix these waves and create a new waveform to use to hit that filter. We'll start with a saw, a triangle, a sub, and we'll leave channel 4 for the onboard noise. So turning my output down before hitting the sound card, let's take the output from the filter and use that mix out into the filter. We've got the filter's input, filter's output, and just a cutoff control. There's no resonance on board without this expander. So first, let's turn the sound back up and sweep the cutoff. Using the expander, let's add some resonance. And some more. We can remove the input to the filter and create a secondary sound source. We'll turn the resonance up full. That gives us the typical oscillating filter creating a sine wave, and this will track the 1 volt per octave input. So whatever sort of intervals you might create between the filter and the oscillator, if you're mixing those, this will track and hold its pitch. However, there's a switch to make this self-oscillate, regardless of the resonance. You can still affect it with the resonance when the switch is in. Gives a more driven, sort of slight crunch to the sound. So not only is the filter a great secondary sound source when it's oscillating, it's also a great audio rate modulator for the FM input on the normal oscillator side of the module. Let's remove the inputs from our mixer and we're just going to listen to the sine wave. So we can hear the sine wave, no modulation. If I flick the filter in, so that's self-oscillating, patch the output into the FM input, with a switch in the topmost position, we get standard linear FM. put the switch in the downmost position, this goes through the through zero detection circuit, gives a slightly different FM tone. Here's those two FM tones. Turning down the volume again, we'll quickly go through the other features. We've got a glide control for the volt per octave, and this works both in terms of the filter's volt per octave tracking and the oscillator. Resonance and cutoff on the expander, an extra FM input with attenuator. We've also got a VCA with input, output and CV that can work completely standalone or alongside the VCO and VCF. So let's get into some patches to look at some of these specific functions. So let's start with a nice thick bass patch. I've got the triangle, saw wave, square wave, and I'm going to use the onboard noise, all from the mixer. And I'm sending the mixer out into the filter, and for now I'm coming straight out of the filter's wide open. So let's start the mix. Nice thick analog mixed waveforms. To turn down the cutoff, listen to some filter sweeps and then add some modulation from an envelope to the cutoff. Add some resonance. It's got this really woody sort of pluck when you add a little bit of resonance. Let's play around with the glide. Throws out lots of bass, the resonance sounds really musical, it's just great fun to jam on. Let's have a look at some pulse width modulation with some longer bass notes. So we're currently just listening to the square wave output, and if I turn up the sound, this is what we've got. Really simple sequence. Leaving that volt per octave sequence playing, I'm going to add a simple looping envelope to the pulse width modulation. And I'm using an LED cable so you can actually see the signal coming in and judge the rate of this looping envelope for yourself on screen. Let's turn the sound back up and turn up the PWM attenuator. Turn the cutoff down and listen to the envelope that I've got modulating the filter. speed up the modulation of the pulse width. Slow that back down. So let's patch up some FM and listen to the cutoff self-oscillating with the linear FM or the through zero FM modulating the oscillator. I'm going to use the sine wave and I'm going to use the VCA expander for some basic amplitude modulation. I'm coming out of the VCA on the bottom left. Let's take the sine wave and patch that to the input of the VCA. And we've got the initial offset, bias, gain, level control, whatever sort of terminology you like to use. That's our basic volume control. You can hear we've got a sequence playing into the volt per octave. We could glide that. We've also got a CV input for the VCA. I'm triggering an envelope alongside the pitch sequence you've just heard, and I'm going to put the envelope into the VCA and modulate the amplitude of my output. I've got the switch down on the filter, which means that's going to self-oscillate and produce a sine wave. Let's patch the filter's output to the FM input and see what sort of tones we can get. Let's add a little bit of level or offset on the VCA and then a little bit of modulation as well. Check out through zero. Back to linear. Some nice glassy overtones. Let's add some glide. And you can hear that tracking between the VCO and the VCF part of the module works great and keeps these locked in tune with each other once you've set the FM that you want. So to play out the video, here's the final patch. I've got the saw and the sub in the mixer expander, mixer out to filter in, filter out to the VCA, an envelope modulating the VCA, and then one LFO modulating the cutoff frequency of the filter, and one LFO modulating the resonance on the filter. So that's it for the birdkids Bateleur module. Bit of a laugh me trying to say that, but the birdkids VCO and VCF and two of its expanders. Be sure to head to the birdkids website to check out more. Hit like and subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff to support me making these videos. If you'd like to donate a little something to support me, you can check out the Patreon link in the description. Of course, if you don't, keep watching these videos as they'll always be free on YouTube.